Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our monthly webinar. This month, you've hired the best. Now what? We're going to review PXT Select Section 2. Our first session was titled Ready to Hire Simpler and Smarter, which introduced the PXT Select hiring program. And this session is going to take the next step with the assessment. Once you've selected your candidate, now what? How can this assessment program, PXT Select, help you onboard, support, and develop your new employees? So I'm Cindy Davidson, Director of Business Solutions here at Corexcel, and I'm here with Andrea Vai. Andrea manages our webinar series. If you have any questions or challenges along the way, please send a private chat to Andrea. You can choose her name or the panelist option. We do record the webinar and provide links later, but your individual participation is not included. So if we ask you to participate, please feel free. Last month, we did cover the history and methodology used to develop the PXT Select assessment and how it helps you get a clear picture of a candidate's verbal skill, their verbal reasoning, numerical ability, numerical reasoning, behavior traits, and interests. We also covered how you match your candidate to a specific job function, and PXT Select has over 135, how you compare multiple candidates to one another, how you compare one candidate to multiple positions. And then we did go through specific interview questions that are made available to you based on each of your candidates' results. We reviewed all the reports available and the training that you can take part in so your team can get started right away. This month, our agenda looks like this. We're going to cover the importance and challenges of onboarding, supporting and developing new hires, and how the assessment system can help you build trust and understand your new hires' areas of opportunity and challenge, how you can coach and develop your new employee using the reports available, introduce them to your existing team, and keep them interested and engaged in their job. And we are going to review all the 9 reports available. Just go back here for a moment, and I just want you to think about the area of opportunity that you're most interested in. So it might be, again, it might be building trust right up front, or it might be coaching and developing that employee over time. So again, a quick review of the reports we introduced last month. We won't spend a lot of time here, but the foundation of the PXT assessment suite is the performance model. And this is what you choose that relates to the position you're looking to fill. And of course, we help you choose that. You can see the attributes that your candidate is going to be measured against is listed on the left. And to the right, the colored bars are the scores necessary to carry out the job. And that's how it's indicated. All the performance models look the same except for the rating scales, the position of those colored bars, where they are. So in this sample, an ideal candidate, if you look at the composite score, the very top bar, the ideal candidate for this particular position, we want them between that 5 and 8 scale. That's where we would like to see them. If you go down to the behavior traits, we're looking for someone who is more unassuming and less forceful on that assertiveness scale. It would be the second one down if you just want to see some examples. And once a candidate completes the online assessment, which takes about 60 to 90 minutes, their responses are placed then on the performance model scales that were chosen for the job. And this is a sample summary page in what's called the Comprehensive Selection Report, which is the next most important report. It shows you how each candidate fits the performance model and what areas you need to explore during the interview process, including suggested interview questions, So in this example, again, this candidate has an overall fit of 70%, high in the thinking style, 79%, a little bit lower in the behavioral traits. So it'll show you what areas should be explored for this particular candidate in that area. The thinking style and behavior traits section each make up 40% of the composite overall fit score, and the interest section makes up the additional 20%. And here's how PXT helps you select candidates. This is a page from the multiple candidates report, and it shows that overall, if you look down at the bottom, there is one candidate who fits the model better than our sample candidate, Oliver Chase. Andrew Langley fits at 77%, Oliver Chase 70%. And again, keep in mind that this doesn't mean because an Andrew Langley ended up higher than Oliver that you would automatically choose Andrew Langley. This assessment suite, as any assessment for hiring, should not be more than 1/3 or not contribute more than 1/3 toward your decision. Perhaps you're interviewing for multiple positions at the same time, so you might want to consider that there are candidates who might respond to one job posting but not another. And that's because sometimes we pigeonhole ourselves, right? Based on where we've spent the most time or acquired the most experience, which can be a fairly narrow view. And it's also a great report to use for career planning. So many customers will, if they've got that specialist job open, using this example, they will also run the candidate against the next position up that they have open, because they know that they really want to groom people. They want to bring people in that have the attributes and could really be a manager someday. So that can be very helpful with that type of planning. So those on the line, just checking in to make sure if you can not hear us, please write. And if you can hear us, please just give a chat to Andrea and let her know that we're all okay here. So again, in summary, last month we covered the performance model, which we briefly reviewed here, the comprehensive selection report, multiple candidates report, and the multiple positions report in detail. And now we're going to spend some time providing an overview of those reports that help you onboard and manage a new hire. So that includes what's called an individual's graph report, individual's feedback report, manager to employee report, coaching report, and the team report. So here we go. Think about when people leave you. Is it because they were unclear about their responsibilities, they weren't satisfied with their training, or they didn't feel welcome? Sort of those last three that are on the slide here, that friendly smile, that recognition for their contribution, that attention for coworkers. Many new hires aren't fully invested when they start a new job, and published studies tell us that a new hire's decision to stay with a company long term is made within that first 6 months of employment. And much of it has to do with the fact that they didn't get, and you can see here, 23% say they left because they didn't feel that they were given clear guidelines on their responsibilities and expectations. They really felt that the training they were receiving was quite inadequate. And the big section, the next big section, which I kind of rolled together here, 17% said, boy, if we just had a friendly smile or help from a coworker, if we felt more recognition that we were hired because of some unique talent that we have, or that we've got some additional attention. We just felt like we were ignored from our manager and coworker. We didn't get what we thought we were going to get there. So again, just think about what that means in terms of your organization. So we're going to take you through like a hypothetical story. I think that's the best way to do this. So here's Oliver Chase. He was our candidate that was chosen for our open position that you see all the sample reports for. The hiring process is exhausting, isn't it? And so often when we're completed, when we've finished the hiring process, we've hired somebody, we're done, kind of wipe our brow, whew, we're glad it's over, but is it really? So here's Oliver. He got the job. He's excited. Seemed everyone was anxious to get him on board, right? And sometimes we're so anxious, we try to talk the person out of waiting as long as they would like to wait. And boy, Barb at the front desk expected Oliver, showed him to his desk. It looked like everything was ready to go. His computer was hooked up. He was given passwords. So how nice, you know? Again, we're giving you the positive story here. Even though Louise, his boss, was unexpectedly called out of town, it looks like a schedule's been developed of meeting with coworkers on various projects he'll be involved in. So how awesome is that? It's what we all want to experience. So he's excited. He's ready to get to know everyone and get to work. During his final interview, Louise, the woman who would be his boss for the job, shared with Oliver the first report we're going to talk about. It's called the individual graph, and those were the results of the survey he took online. And here's what they look like, and he felt really good about that because he was able to talk about himself, the types of things that come easy to him, and those that might be more difficult. If he had any questions or any concerns about where he fell on the scales here. But he was basically able to have a candid conversation, and Louise with him, about his fit with the job, how he made his personality traits work for him in the past. And now when he meets with his colleagues, he'll be able to keep this in mind when figuring out how best to work with everyone. It's kind of top of mind now. Maybe he hasn't ever taken an assessment or a behavior style profile. Maybe it's been a while. So Oliver's first meeting with Louise is today, and they'll not only be reviewing the projects he'll be involved in, but in thinking back to his graph, he's appreciating his unique contributions and why he might have gotten the job. But in addition, what might be a challenge for him. So he's kind of getting a head start here on getting introduced to the organization, the culture, and the team. So here's Louise, Oliver's new boss. So she goes into a meeting with Oliver, and she's able to share the individual feedback report, the next report we want to talk about, which is really the narrative behind the graph we just looked at. But why this is important is she can now share with Oliver more detail about his results from the survey he took. And the report is written in first person to Oliver, and it does go through all the areas of the survey, his thinking style, behavior style, and interests. And this page shows you the type of comments he'll be seeing about his style. So here's the composite score, and you can see that the comments are all very positive. He is most able to adapt to a variety of training situations. It's likely he'll find it easy to learn the requirements. He'll appreciate a challenge while training on new tasks, and most likely he'll solve problems well. He'll consider solutions from a variety of perspectives. So again, this report is written to Oliver, but it gives Louise the opportunity to review it with him. So Oliver's blown away. He can't believe that the company is that interested in what he is all about. Can you imagine? The individual feedback reports gives him a full description of his likely behavior traits, and it's a way for Louise to have a valuable first conversation with him. So we're going to follow Oliver's assertiveness area throughout these reports so that you can get a flavor for how the same rating looks throughout. So Louise asks him about his assertiveness and his desire to be a leader given the team he'll be working on, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later when we get into the coaching and team reports. But for now, Louise's goal is to get Oliver thinking about himself and how he relates to others. So you can see a couple of the examples here. We'll just read off two. Situations in which he is held accountable for results motivate him. Most likely he's willing to be more of a leader than a follower. And finally, Oliver's interests are covered. So again, his boss can confirm with him what's most motivational for him and how that plays into his current responsibilities or his career path with the organization. And here's the overall graph from the coaching report, which again, you can see looks very similar to the graph contained in the comprehensive selection report. It gives Louise pause, and she thinks back to mistakes that they have made as a team and an organization in the past in the hiring and onboarding process, the whole way through. Hiring individuals who don't fit the expectations of the job, not introducing them properly to the culture or team, and not giving them the behind-the-scenes support they need to really navigate through the challenges. So again, you can see here it's going to go through all of the aspects that are measured of the candidate's thinking style, behavior traits, and interests. But what's different from the comprehensive selection report is the narrative. So this narrative is written to Louise as his boss and is a review of, again, all the attributes that are contained in every report. So here you can see that Oliver ended on the right side, on the highest part of the scale, on the composite score of the thinking style. But it gives her, this is the type of narrative it gives her. So it says he's an effective learner who may appreciate a challenge. He solves problems effectively, considering solutions from many different perspectives. Again, similar but somewhat different narrative. Without challenging in a training program, you may lose his full attention. So let's look at the next. Management tips is what are really key for her. Keep his workload and training opportunities challenging so he doesn't get bored and lose interest. Invite his problem-solving skills. Take advantage of them for the organization. And if others lag behind him, he's really going to, and you're going to need to kind of slow down some type of learning process for the group. Know that you're just going to have to challenge him and give him meaningful work to keep him engaged. So let's look at what this report, again, this is the coaching report, has to say about Oliver's assertiveness trait. Again, we'll follow this all through. So you can see he doesn't fit the model. The model was actually on the unassuming side. He tends to be fairly comfortable sticking up for his opinions and needs. You can see he is much more on the forceful side. So the report will explain to Louise, okay, you need to, again, remind yourself of these attributes of Oliver. Again, motivated by situations which he's held accountable, which is great, but he's willing to be assertive, more of a leader than a follower. So what does that mean? She's got to provide positive feedback when he engages in active listening, rather than pushing forth with his agenda, because that's what he's going to be likely to do, and maybe not so much desired for this particular position. If she notices that he is too dominating in situations, she'll need to provide him feedback, suggesting that he allow others more opportunity for input. And the bottom line, he's going to take on leadership roles comfortably, so she needs to think about how to take best advantage of that. But he's still willing to follow direction from someone else when necessary. So that's good because she will be able to coach him effectively. And then finally, again, she'll get the order of Oliver's interests and a detailed explanation for each. So she can consider, again, what is that going to mean for her in terms of how she plans for his career. Looks like he's likely to enjoy enterprising and financial administrative aspects of the job. The people service activities, not so much. So since Louise implemented the PXT Select with all of her existing staff, and many organizations do this, and the reason they do this is if they're interviewing, for example, for an analyst position, and they have 6 analysts that another individual is going to be working with, they kind of look at where do those analysts fit on the performance model scale, so they can get an idea of and a confirmation that this really is a good model for their team. So the other benefit is when you implement it with existing staff, you're able to access a team report. And in this example again, this is Oliver's team report that shows other members of his team. So you can see here the summary page, and it would allow Louise to see where everyone is on the behavior scales. And you can see here, for example, that on the assertiveness scale, you can see where Oliver is. It's talking to him. This report is talking to him. That's where it says you. He's also got 2 people that are right where he is on his team and another person that is even more forceful. And then you can see there are 2 that are close by, toward the middle of that scale, and one that is totally unassuming and not so forceful. So it's valuable to have an objective conversation about what that means for Oliver and his team. He wants to be in charge, but so do 3 other people. And the one who doesn't is likely to be bowled over by the other members of the team. So they're going to have to really think about how to plan out their interactions and communication. So again, it does give a page of real estate to each of these behaviors. So you can see on the assertiveness, the team report is going to give the team for discussion what does assertiveness look like for this team. Again, there's the scale. It gives the initials for each team member. And then what it looks like for this team. So again, it explains that some are very diplomatic with little need for control, while others are competitive and eager to take charge. It's split. That's what it explains here. Forceful members of the team are willing to take charge, which is likely welcomed by unassuming team members. However, the downside of that is the opinions and ideas of unassuming team members may be drowned out. So it gives, again, it goes further to give the points to consider. For Oliver, so like you, some of your teammates tend to be direct. Since the unassuming members may not have much of a need to be heard, they may often defer. So they may need some prompting. They may need some coaching and developing themselves from the team on how to really make sure that their opinions are heard. And finally, the report here ends with a summary page, and you can see it gives an average for each behavior. So as a group, you can see they're more on the forceful side. And again, it gives a bottom line. They've got to take turns leading discussions so everyone has a chance to assert some control. That's the number 1 area they're going to have to look out for. And again, because Louise has taken the PXT Select profile for her position, she also has the manager-employee report available. So she can see where she lands on the scale against her new employee. So let's just, again, continue to look at that assertiveness trait. She can see that she is less forceful, less assertive than her new employee. So what is that going to mean for her? Well, in working together, it's going to mean that, again, she is somewhat unassuming. Her new employee is going to be somewhat forceful. In most cases, he'll contribute well in team discussions and freely offer his opinions and ideas. Yet at times, he may dominate discussions. So what does that mean to a manager? It means she's going to have to lay out ground rules up front and state clearly how each team member is going to contribute without undue challenge. So again, she's going to have to give him direction without being confrontational. And it further explains her tendencies. She's comfortable letting others take charge. He is going to prefer to lead the discussions. She may withhold her opinions. She may let others enforce unpopular decisions without objection. So she's going to have to be aware of that and look out for that. The last page provides an area for summary and reflection for each behavior trait, and this is a great tool to sit down and really think through what is your plan now with this particular employee. What impact is this behavior going to have on the relationship, and what do you do about it? Quick review. These reports feel like a roadmap to me because they give a manager valuable steps in getting everyone on the same track. Getting the right people on the bus, building a culture of trust. And it all starts with, again, that comprehensive selection report, the multiple candidates report, and multiple positions report that are used in the selection and hiring process. As you get down to your final candidate, you can use that individual graph report. Once they're on board, you can use the individual reports, the team report, the coaching report, really to understand and give that recognition to your new hires for their unique contribution, fulfill their desire to get attention and feel welcomed from coworkers. Again, the coaching and manager employee report, it's really going to those feeling like they've got their clear guidelines on responsibilities and expectations, that they're really getting the kind of development and training support they're looking for. And finally, it sort of goes back around in career planning, looking at that comprehensive selection report and the multiple positions report as well to really see where this candidate can go. And again, just think through which report, and if you want to just give me a chat, we can read them out, what report you think, out of seeing them all, what might you benefit most from? What do you think would be most beneficial? Anybody have any thoughts? All right, well, in summary, again, we're going to go from the top right here. Once a final candidate is identified, you may want to share the individual graph. I think it's a great way to begin building trust. Then you can share the individual summary report and orientation that gives you a lot more detail. The team report's going to help you with the team dynamics. And then that coaching and manager report really gets into when you begin to really integrate that individual into their day-to-day responsibilities. And then there is a return to the various comprehensive selection reports, because once a candidate takes an assessment, you can run them against a variety of positions to see where they can go within the organization or where they would be most likely successful in the organization. Your organization should develop a written policy. You may already have that, but if you have never used assessments, you'll want to develop a specific written policy that covers all aspects of your hiring process and how the reports will be used. And here are some best practices for the suite, and they are taken right from this guide that is at the bottom of this slide here, an employer's guide to good practices from the U.S. Department of Labor. It's quite a robust document, and you'll see these kind of guidelines contained there. Written policies and procedures on interviewing and hiring. You'll want to include specifics for candidates with disabilities to meet ADA. The assessments, again, should contribute no more than a third toward your hiring decision. You're going to consider other factors, of course, like references, interviews, records of past performance, If someone isn't at that desired 70% or above, it just means you probably want to explore them a little bit harder. It doesn't necessarily mean that they can't do the job sufficiently. By the same token, you could get a high rating, and that person doesn't make it through the entire interview process with you because of other factors that you uncover. You do want to make sure that you're using the assessments and reports consistently, and that means consistently against all candidates. So you don't apply a report to one candidate and not another. You do want to share them as appropriate. I made the recommendation that you share the individual graph report before you bring somebody on board, right when they are your final candidate, but that might not be right for everyone. And then, of course, you want to keep necessary records. Again, in our first session last month, we covered in detail these reports that we just reviewed briefly today: the performance model, comprehensive selection report, multiple candidates report, the multiple positions report. And today, I hope you've gotten a really good understanding of that individual's graph, their feedback report, the manager-employee report, coaching, and the team report. And you can get samples of all of these reports by visiting our website at www.corexcel.com. You can go there, download the report, print out samples so that you can see the reports in their entirety. If you'd like to get started, we can certainly help you develop a plan for implementation. We also conduct virtual workshops to introduce the program to your team. The entire suite per candidate is $200, or per employee is $295. So that includes all of the reports that we just reviewed. Staff training and certifications, although not required for PXT Select, are available. What we do, if somebody is interested in proceeding, a lot of times they want to do a pilot, which is quite a great idea. If you have a position open or a particular team that has high turnover that you want to start with, and start out by giving the assessment to the team members and then new hires going forward, you can certainly do that and see how that works out for you, and then make a decision as to whether or not this is right for your group. What we do once you decide it's right for your group is we get you set up with an account, and we offer to you 3-hour virtual staff training, so your HR team understands, your talent acquisition team understands how to use the reports, how to interpret the reports, and some best practices using them going forward, as well as an introduction to the administration system. So I thank you for joining us. You can thank me by filling out the survey that you receive at the end. It's very short. I really would appreciate your feedback. And if you are interested in going further, all you need to do is write me an email or give me a call.